Right now, you are probably sitting in a house with central heating, insulated walls, and electricity running through every room. It cost a fortune to build, and it costs you money every single month to keep warm. So here is a question that should not have an uncomfortable answer, but does. How could a house built 1,000 years ago with no electricity, no furnace, no concrete, no modern materials of any kind, beat your house in the dead of winter, not match it? Beat it. Because that is exactly what happened out on the northern plains, where January temperatures crashed to -34 degrees Celsius, and Arctic wind ran 1,600 kilometers without a single tree or hill to slow it down. Wind like that doesn't just chill you, it strips the heat off a body and can freeze exposed skin in under a minute. And in the middle of that killing cold sat a low mound of earth that looked like nothing at all, yet held a family in comfortable warmth, night after night, on a fraction of the fuel your home burns today. So today, we are not going to admire this building from a respectful distance. We are going to put it on trial. We are going to take the ancient Earth Lodge and match it, category by category, against modern engineering, heating, structure, insulation, ventilation, sustainability, and keep score. And I'll tell you now where this is heading. The thing our architects are selling as the cutting-edge home of the future turns out to be an idea we literally buried in the ground and forgot. This is the engineering of the Mandan, the Hidatsa, and the Arikara peoples, and of the Salish far to the west, and by the end you may not be sure your own house would win a single round. Let's start with the round your house should win easily: heating. And to score it fairly, you first have to understand what these people were actually fighting. It was never really the temperature, it was the wind. On open ground, with nothing to break it, moving Arctic air pulls heat off a body far faster than still air ever could, which is why exposed skin can freeze in under a minute out there. So the obvious move is to run from it, and some people did. A nomadic family could drop a tipi and raise it again hours later, chasing the herds and the shelter. But the Mandan, the Hidatsa, and the Arikara were farmers. Their corn, their squash, their beans were rooted in the river valleys, and you cannot carry a harvest across a frozen plain. They couldn't leave their food, so they did the only thing left. Since their food came out of the earth, they went down into it. And down there was a resource your expensive furnace can't touch. While the air above ground swings through more than 80 degrees between summer and winter, the ground just 2 meters down holds steady between 4 and 10 degrees Celsius all year, no matter what the sky is doing. Sit with what that does to the math. When it's -30 outside, you are not starting your fight for warmth at -30, you're starting it at +5. The heat you have to generate is cut by more than half. You're not climbing 70 degrees, you're climbing 15. Now, here is the part that should make a modern builder wince. That is geothermal heating. That is the exact principle behind the ground source heat pump that costs homeowners tens of thousands of dollars to install today, pulling stored warmth from stable earth instead of burning fuel against the sky. These people had it for free, with no machinery, centuries before the technology even had a name. And they built at scale. At Keekley Creek in British Columbia, archaeologists found pit houses 20 meters across, entire families living on that one quiet truth about the ground. Round one does not go to your house, it goes to theirs. If heating was a knockout, structure should be where modern building fights back. It doesn't. Look at the skeleton of an earth lodge. 4 massive cottonwood posts, each as thick as a man's body, stood in a square at the center, carrying heavy horizontal beams. Rafters fanned out from that core like spokes, and rested on a second ring of shorter posts near the wall. And there was not a single nail in any of it, no metal fasteners at all. The post tops were forked, carved to cradle the beams they carried, and when the builders heaped tons of earth onto the roof, that weight drove straight down and locked every joint tighter than any bolt could. The structure didn't fight gravity, it recruited it. The heavier the load, the stronger the house became. And because those joints could flex instead of snap, the frame rode out, shifting frozen ground and hammering wind without cracking the exact kind of flexible, load-tolerant behavior that modern engineers now spend real money trying to design into rigid steel and concrete frames. Round 2, theirs. Now the insulation, and this is where the layering becomes almost surgical. First, a woven lattice of willow branches across the rafters, and this layer wasn't for warmth. It was a moisture break. It let the timbers stay dry so the wood wouldn't rot, doing the exact job of the vapor barrier that careless modern crews still forget, the omission that quietly breeds mold and rot inside contemporary walls. Over the willow went a thick layer of dried prairie grass, trapping air in countless tiny pockets, a natural, high R-value insulation doing precisely what the packed cellulose or mineral wool in a passive house does today. And over that, heavy blocks of sod, 30 to 60 centimeters deep. That top layer wasn't insulation at all. It was thermal mass, the same principle premium passive homes now advertise, walls dense enough to soak up the fire's heat all day and slowly release it back through the night, so the indoor temperature barely moved while the outside world lurched between extremes. Put a name on what they actually built, and it reads like a modern brochure. A flexible, seismic-tolerant frame, a vapor barrier, high R-value insulation, and a thermal mass envelope and earth-sheltered home. Except architects sell that as a luxury green concept today, at a premium price. These people assembled all of it out of willow, grass, and dirt. Rounds 2 and 3, theirs again. Your house is now down 3-0. Down 3-0, your house has one obvious advantage left. It can breathe without poisoning you. Modern homes push stale air out and pull fresh air in through powered ventilation. So how does a sealed mound of earth with an open fire manage the same trick? It engineers the airflow into the building itself. A long, low entrance tunnel let heavy cold air sink and settle near the floor instead of flooding the room. Inside, hot air climbed to the domed peak and slipped out through a smoke hole, and that rising column created suction, a low-pressure zone that drew fresh air in through the tunnel on its own. A deflector wall then split that incoming stream and sent it circling the room, letting it absorb heat from the earthen walls before it ever reached the fire. The flames didn't just warm the air, they pumped it. And the Salish sharpened the same idea to a point. Many of their pit houses had no ground-level door at all. You climb down through the roof. A door at floor level is a permanent leak. Warm air escapes out the top, while cold air pours in at the bottom, the stack effect bleeding heat every second it's open. A roof entrance killed that loss, and as a bonus, it stayed clear when snow buried the walls under several meters. Strip away the age of it, and you are describing a manual heat recovery ventilation system, the exact HRV technology sold in high-end homes today, running here with zero electricity. Round 4, theirs. They even stacked the deck on fuel. Beds were raised platforms along the wall, hooded with hide to trap a sleeper's own body heat in a warm pocket. And on the coldest nights the Hidatsa brought the horses inside. A single resting horse throws off 1,500 to 2,000 BTUs an hour, roughly a 500-watt heater that never shuts off, so 3 or 4 animals meant nearly 2 kilowatts of free biological heat your home has no equivalent for. The Vikings did it with cattle in their longhouses. Swiss farmers built their homes right above the barn. Round 5, theirs. So let's be honest and give your house its 1 point. That same fire hid a real flaw. Burn damp wood, or seal the smoke hole too tightly in a blizzard, and carbon monoxide could build up inside a genuine, occasionally fatal risk that only disciplined fire tending kept in check. It's the single category where the ancient design gives up ground, and it deserves the deduction. 1 point to you. But notice, even the labor ran on a system we've lost. These houses rose through feasting, where the owner fed and rewarded the workers, turning surplus food directly into a finished home with no money changing hands at all. So here is the final score. Heating, structure, insulation, ventilation, fuel, 5 rounds to the earth lodge, 1 to your house. 1,000-year-old mound of willow, grass and dirt just beat your heated, wired, insulated home in almost every category that matters in winter. And the most unsettling part isn't that they won. It's that we're now paying premium prices to reinvent every single thing they did. Geothermal heating, thermal mass walls, heat recovery ventilation, earth-sheltered design. We sell these as net zero, passive, cutting-edge, the house of the future. But the house of the future is the house of the deep past. We didn't invent this. We rediscovered a fraction of it, slapped modern names on it, and marked up the price. For a moment, though, we had the whole blueprint in our hands and threw it away. When European settlers arrived, they looked at these homes, judged them primitive, and built drafty wooden boxes above the ground. Instead, burning forests of wood to stay cold in houses the Mandan would have found unlivable. That was the moment the knowledge got discarded. Then the villages themselves fell silent. The climate shifted, the bison moved on, and European disease and forced removals emptied the plains. The roofs caved in, the great posts rotted, the pits filled with soil, but the design never actually vanished. Look at the northern plains today, and you can still read it. Faint circular rings pressed into the earth, a blueprint sitting in the ground, waiting for someone who knows how to read it. Because knowledge like this doesn't die because it failed. It gets buried because we assume newer always means better. The plans were never lost, we just stopped reading them. And in an age of energy crises, off-grid living, and the scramble for anything truly sustainable, that might be the most valuable page we ever tore out. Next time, we head north to people who faced an even crueler enemy, winters of -40, and the Viking and Athabascan answers to it. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And tell me honestly in the comments, would you actually dare to live in a house like this? And do you think it could beat your winter heating bill?